All right, so this is the first significant problem I've had in the camper, so I thought I'd do a little instructional video on troubleshooting and potential solutions. Basically have no electric hot water. This is a Suburban SW6DELC model, but pretty much any electric model will be the same kind of walkthrough. Also have propane. I do have propane heat, so thinking it's something on the electric side. So gonna kind of just walk through the steps that I've gone through to trace the problem. So the first thing obviously that I did was to cut the breaker off, because I'm gonna be doing some testing. So just while I'm taking things apart, shut that breaker off and make sure you're not going to get a shock. First thing I'm going to do is take the cover off for the heating element and make sure that the heating element is okay. So just a little plastic cover, 3 screws there that you take off. The next thing I'm going to do is just verify that I don't have any power going to this, so I don't get electrocuted. Alright. And what we're going to do is take one of these wires off. I don't think it matters. Just going to take the neutral off. And we're going to do an ohm test. And you can look up Ohm's law. There's a calculation that you can do, shows what the voltage is and the wattages. You can see there, got a 120 volt, 1500 watt heating element, and there's a calculation you can do to find out what the resistance is. Mine should be around 10. And I got 10.1. So I'm just touching the two electrodes. It's just showing the resistance on the element itself. So this is normally the thing that goes bad for everybody. So you would be able to, you need a specific socket. I think it's like 1.25 inches or something, to take the heating element out. I have actually already replaced this one, but that is not the problem in this case. All right, so the next thing that we can take a look at is the thermostats. They do go bad sometimes. These are your reset buttons on mine, and I think on most of them the propane is on the right, electric systems on the left. You'll see what this looks like when I get it off. All right, so your propane's always going to be red, electric's going to be black as far as I know, and there's two thermostats on each side. There's an emergency, I forget what the name of it is, emergency unit, and then your normal thermostat. So down here I think they're typically shutting off at 130. If for some reason that doesn't shut off, you're going to have your emergency shut off at 180, which I think is when steam is produced, and it's going to shut the unit off, and that's when you need to hit that reset button. So the next thing you can do is test for your volts here and see if you have anything. Now my unit's off, but you can just touch one of the contacts and ground it, see if you have any voltage to the thermostat. I've already checked mine with the unit on, with the circuit breaker on, and I didn't have anything. So the next thing that you would want to check is your switch. And not all the units have this switch. Let me get a better view of it, but most of the modern ones do. So you can see right here, just an on-off toggle switch. which is kind of essentially a safety feature. So if you accidentally have it on inside on your control panel, when you don't have water in here, as long as you have it off on the unit on this toggle switch, you're not going to blow your element. All right, so that just pops out. I just took a screwdriver behind the plate and it just pops right out. So the next thing that you want to test is you can pull both of the connectors off. I'm not going to do it, I've already done this, but pull both the connectors off and you can test for resistance between the two switches with it on. And I'm sorry, between the two connectors with the switch on, and see if you are good. If you're not, you have a bad switch, and they do go bad from what I understand fairly often. So probably another part that might be worth having an extra one. My switch was good, so I checked for voltage to these wires coming in, and I had nothing. So at that point, I know I'm not getting 120 to the switch at all, so there's something going on in the wiring inside or behind the unit. So the next step for me was to come inside and clear everything out of the way. And my unit's just right behind this little protective piece, and I got access to it right here. So you have a little diagram here. That's your 12-volt system, so that's your propane. So all this side is a propane connection. On the back side, which we'll show you from inside the camper, is where the electric side is. So I found this cable was plugged into the outlet here. So I tested the outlet to make sure I had voltage to the outlet, and the wire going to that wasn't bad. That was fine. Tested this cable, and it was drawing, so that was fine. So I had to go basically inside. Oh, I went to the circuit breaker first and checked the voltage going to the circuit breaker first. Obviously make sure you don't have a blown circuit that you need to flip. That's the easiest solution if that happens, to just flip that back. Also, even if it doesn't look like it's off, just flip it off and back on, just to make sure and test everything at that point. Sometimes it doesn't look like it flipped, but it did. So I had voltage coming from the circuit breaker, so I know that was fine. So came down to the outlet, that's fine. The wire obviously is fine. So I kind of climb back here, and you can see there's a like junction box type setup on the back, and the access from inside here is pretty much impossible. So that's when I go inside the camper. Somebody wants a hot bath, not a cold bath, right? Do you need a bath? Yeah, I thought so. Okay, so inside the camper, basically my unit is right underneath the steps. This is a Forest River Flagstaff Classic. Not obviously it's going to be specific to your setup, but this is just the access for my unit. So the first thing I did was take this trim off the top, and you can see obviously I've already been in here, but just wanted to kind of show everyone the full walkthrough. So I took the trim off the top carefully. You can get some scrapage here. I had a piece of Luan just like down here. I just carefully took that off. It's held in with, mine was held in with both staples and brad nails. And then I had 3 screws holding this piece of plywood on, one down here as well, but that is not in right now. And you can pull this off and you have a little bit of access. Now my unit's already apart, but I wasn't really able to do what I wanted to here, so I actually took this top step off as well. Really wasn't too bad. There was a piece of wood that was screwed in back here, and it was stapled to the step, so I pulled that off as well. And that gave me a little better access underneath. So basically you're gonna have a cover over top of this box. It actually has the mapping on it as far as it shows you the relay to the switch, then to the T-stat, and then to the element. So that's kind of how you know how to work your way backwards to get to this point. So basically when I took this off, these wires obviously all were inside here, and there was a relay here. I'll go grab it in a second. There was a relay there, and this was on the end of it, completely separated. Let's go grab that relay. Actually, I have it in here. All right, there's the old relay, and you can see the connector just completely melted. I mean, it melted the relay itself, so I had to go get a new one. Here's a little lesson learned. I had to go, there was one place within 20 minutes of me. I gave them the model number off the old one, and it took 10 minutes for them to even try to find anything. They had no matching number. Tried to look it up by the unit. And I mean, they were basically idiots. I probably could have tried to call back later in the day, and you know, sometimes you get that other person and they can immediately help you and know what you're dealing with, but I didn't really have the patience for that. So I found a Camping World that was an hour away. Of course, they didn't have it in stock, so they had to get one shipped. And I said, you know, it was like 13 bucks for the relay. And this is one of those things where I don't know what's causing the problem. And who knows what's going to happen down the road, and I don't want to have to drive another hour to get another one and have to wait a few days. So I had them order 2. That way if something else goes wrong, I got it on hand. Elements, I would probably recommend the same. Always have a backup element. You never know. It only takes that split second to turn on the unit with no water in it, and your element's going to go bad. So just a little lesson learned there. So I ordered 2 of the units. They actually couldn't find the part number either that was on the relay itself, which is really strange to me. Now that I'm looking at this doesn't have any part numbers on it, and the actual thing doesn't have a part number either. So they looked it up by my unit. And then I also needed connectors. Just FYI, these are going to be automotive connectors, not at Home Depot or anything. So AutoZone, something like that, do you good. And so what we're going to do is we're going to just put a new connector. I did have to cut back. This is just a power cord, so I mean, if for some reason there's something wrong with the power cord, I did have to cut back quite a bit of this black wire because it had corrosion on it, and even the insulation was kind of brittle, so I cut it back a good ways. But it's just the other end of that power cord down there, so if you needed to, you can just buy a new cord and cut the end off and wire all this in like so. So hopefully I don't have to do that, but we're going to try to just put a new connector on here, put the new relay in, and pray for the best. This I don't know what they call these things, the kind of clamp down on the wire so that nothing can get in or out of the box. But this is just a plastic piece. It's got like a zip tie type thing on two sides, so you just push those in and it pulls right out and releases the pressure so you can pull the wire through. So the only kind of negative here, if you did have to replace it, is, which isn't a big deal, is the neutral wire goes straight through. I'm not even actually sure. I haven't read enough to know what the yellow and the orange wire that connect into the relay are for. Maybe, no, not the T-set. I don't know how the relay works. But you got a hot going into it, hot going out, neutral passing straight through that doesn't go into the relay, and then the orange and the yellow plug into the relay. So, again, these are going to be, well, these you might be able to get at Home Depot, but these are basically all automotive connectors, if you need to replace any of the other wires for whatever reason. So I'm gonna get to it, gonna put this new connector on and put the relay back in and see what we got. All right, so here's another lesson learned tip for you guys. If you get to this point and your connection is bad, automotive connections, no bueno. Well, at least this brand. This is what I ended up having to get. Handy Pack. I don't even know. Never heard of this place or this company. This is the Dorman one. You can see that there's like a clip that holds this in. You can actually open up somehow without breaking. You can open up the top of this. Anyway, these two latches on the side prevent from fitting in here. So I had to go to several different places to find one that was just straight, a little narrower too. I even tried to take these off of one of them and it was still a little too wide, and you can see how much lower profile this one is. It's still a little tight, but that's good. So make sure you're picking up the right connector when you go to get them. All right, so we're all buttoned up. Let's see if I can get a view in here at all. Not sure if you'll be able to see that, but got everything back together. We got We got 120 coming in. The relay is on. So we got 120 going to the switch. I'm sure you can already hear it running, but just to show. And we're working with limited light here. 120 coming from the switch, going to the thermostat, and finally 120 to the element. So we're all set. We'll see how long this lasts. Hopefully no more problems with the water heater.